All right. All right. Hi, guys. Welcome to today's live session. If you guys can hear me, just give me a thumbs up in the comments bar, please. Just quickly asking my team if everything's all right, because I'm live on other platforms as well. Okay, so yep, people joining me on all platforms, welcome. Yes, just getting a quick nod of approval from my team before I proceed. So let's just check if everything's all right. Guys, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. Okay. Yeah, I think we should be good. Okay. Okay, yes, Akshat, Rahul, Siddhant, hi. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live session. I am in Toronto, in Canada. You guys know me already. I am the AJV specialist, Canada specialist, based in Canada. And today is a Thursday morning here. So, yeah, it's a bright Thursday morning here. And guys, as always, if you have questions, please put them in the comment section. I will attend to it as I go along, or I can get to it at the very end. I guess it's good if I keep them interspersed while I do my live session. This, of course, as we've advertised already, is a session on everything students. So we will be discussing courses, a few course recommendations, universities, the visa process, everything that is concerned really with studying in Canada. That doesn't really bar you from putting in questions with regard to sort of other categories, or if you have questions regarding other streams. But in terms of the information that I will be providing, it will be a student-specific one. And let's keep this interactive. So if you want, any particular pieces of information from me, feel free to ask. I can already see questions on New Zealand and wanting to go to Auckland and Wellington. Guys, I will have AJV colleagues do sessions on New Zealand in particular. The only broad update that I can give you with regard to New Zealand is that the borders are still closed, and visa applications are not even being accepted, let alone decisions and processing, etc. So that's sort of the broad update on New Zealand. There will be New Zealand-specific live sessions. There always are. But please keep your questions specific to Canada, because, I only have an overview of the Canadian system, and I'm not the New Zealand expert, and somebody else will attend to your questions, queries at some other point in time. All right, so let's keep this Canada specific, and this isn't a session on New Zealand. Yeah, there are lots of questions pouring in on New Zealand already. Okay, yeah, Shivang says, I got an offer letter for New Zealand through AJV, but now looking at the situation, I'm planning to go for Canada. So Shivang, welcome to the live session. I must say that you're not the only one. This decision isn't you in isolation. There are lots of people who are a little bit disenchanted with how things are going in New Zealand, and they have taken a bit of a turn for the worse, with a lot of visa offices in India closing. I used to work for the New Zealand High Commission myself in India not too long ago, and all of our offices have closed. They've moved all of the processing to New Zealand itself, and just setting up offices and processing and actually issuing decisions, etc., will take a really long time. So it doesn't look like there will be any sort of decision making on visa applications and people traveling to New Zealand. Canada, on the other hand, the difference is that if you have an approved visa, especially if you're not especially if, but it is a mandatory requirement. Your college has to have a COVID readiness plan approved by the province, and then you're good to come to Canada. So applications are still being accepted. Applications are still being processed. India, if you are aware of, falls under the Student Direct Stream Program, the SDS program, which means processing of student visa applications for Indian nationals. There are other countries in that list as well: Philippines, Morocco, Pakistan, etc. Processing happens within 20 calendar days. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people are now taking a bit of a segue from other countries and looking at Canada, primarily because you can still come to Canada and you can start pursuing your course if you have an approved visa. Yeah, there's a lot of questions on New Zealand here again, guys. Visa offices in Bandra, Mumbai is closed, miss. Ani, yes, correct. That is correct. Visa offices, we are talking about New Zealand visa offices in there was one big processing office in BKC in Mumbai. That's where I worked for a while as well. Yes, that office has been completely closed, and all of the jobs have gone to New Zealand. Yeah, that is the New Zealand update. Okay, so guys, let's be cognizant of the fact that this is a Canada session and keep our questions specific and related to Canada. I'm taking questions from other forums as well. And PTE, Vijay, your question on if PTE is accepted by universities, the answer to that is a no. PTE is not accepted. Universities which largely accept an IELTS or a TOEFL. TOEFL is the test of English as foreign language. Yes, that can be accepted. IELTS, of course, academic IELTS for anybody wanting to pursue any course or for pursuing any academic pathway in Canada. You'll need general IELTS, of course, for the more generic, or if you want to pursue express entry and come here as on PR, then of course you will need academic, you need general IELTS. But for all other purposes, you will need academic IELTS. TOEFL is accepted as well. A lot of the more competitive universities here have requirements for GRE and GMAT as well. So it really depends on which place you're going to, and it's better to have done the research in advance. But PTE as a test is not accepted. It's not very popular. It's not accepted. Yes, Rahul, your question on your CRS score being 473, first of all, congratulations. I think that's a fairly credible CRS score, 473. FSW draw not happening. Yes, the last all program draw happened a while back, and we're actually expecting an all program draw in March, anytime now. So you'll have to wait. With 473, I would actually be hopeful. Because the scores have been, the all program draw scores have been hovering, around the 472, 474 mark. So with 473, you actually have the sweet spot. So I would be very, very hopeful if I were you. It really is on, when the draw will happen, which is the all program draw should happen anytime soon. In terms of, even though I said this is a student-specific session, since there are so many questions on express entry, yeah, the last draw. Okay. Yeah, which was draw number 178. It happened on the 17th of March, 2021, and that was the provincial nomination program. And the draw score was 682. And it's high, of course, because so if you've been following me on live sessions enough, you know that a provincial nomination program will give you 600 extra points. So there was a draw on the 17th of March. That was the last express entry draw. 17th of March, it was a provincial nomination specific one, and the CRS lowest score was 682. There hasn't been an all program draw this year, so everybody's expecting it. But that 472 is definitely a good score. 473. All right, Rahul. So hopefully that wants to, yeah, that answers your question. All right. So, in terms of courses in Canada, I see there are a few generic questions here on courses, and that's pretty much the content of today's session. What to study, and this is very comparable to New Zealand as well. The courses in demand and the courses that have a really high uptake as far as jobs are concerned, of course, is STEM. So, all courses in the area of science, technology, engineering, maths, which is what STEM stands for, in addition to, of course, healthcare courses, are the ones that are popular, that have always had the highest uptake. And we are going to go through, some of the better universities, institutions in Canada that will offer you a world-class experience. So with students in India, of course, we have a lot of IT programs that are very, very popular in Canada as well. And in terms of courses, some of the more popular ones are, there are advanced diplomas in computer engineering technology, computer programming as well. The college that is very popular is Humber College. There's also Centennial College here that has a Bachelor of Information Technology. It's longish course, but of course very credible and has a very high uptake, as far as landing students' jobs is concerned. There's also University of Windsor that has the Bachelor of Computer Science. University of British Columbia, of course, one of the highly rated universities in Canada, has a BSc in Computer Science. And there's also University in Toronto, which is, of course, the highest rated university in Canada, offering the Bachelor of Computer Science program. Bachelor's degrees are 3 years or plus, and typically a bachelor's degree in Canada is actually 4 years. So you're investing significant time, resources, energy, but of course, it'll give you that much more exposure to your specialization in general, and it gives you a solid footing in the Canadian job space as well. So that's the advantage of pursuing a bachelor's degree in Canada. Of course, the ever so prominent business courses, also have enjoy very, very high popularity among students in India, especially. So in terms of some of the business programs in Canada that are popular, recommended, of course, there is an MBA program, MBA and BBA, both offered by the University of Toronto. University of Toronto, of course, is the highest rated university in Canada, very, very competitive. You will largely need a GMAT or a GRE to get into University of Toronto, in addition to an academic IELTS score. An IELTS score for universities like this, you will need an upwards of 7.5. So there will be a lot of preparation required. So if there's a GMAT, GRE requirement, there will be, the university will recommend which one, and so you might want to start preparing in advance. There's also McGill University, which is fairly popular. McGill University is in the province of Quebec, in Montreal. Ivy Business School is also popular in terms of a full-time MBA. This is in a small province in Ontario called London. There's also McMaster University. So McMaster University is in Hamilton, of course, in Ontario again. And there's also Simon Fraser University. Simon Fraser University is actually more popular for executive MBAs, for people who are here and working already. But they also have full-time courses. And Simon Fraser University is in Burnaby in British Columbia. These are all very, very popular universities as far as business courses is concerned. So I'll give you a rundown again. So we're talking about BBA and MBA courses if you want to study business in Canada, and the recommended universities, of course, and in no particular order of priority, would be University of Toronto. Here in Toronto, in Ontario, there's McGill University in Montreal and Quebec, Ivy Business School in London, Ontario. McMaster University is in a small province in Ontario called Hamilton, and there's Simon Fraser University in a place called Burnaby in British Columbia. All very, very institutes in good standing, very competitive. They will require either a GMAT or a GRE, in addition, as I said, to an academic IELTS. So you might want to do your preparation and research in advance. Yeah, guys, a lot of questions on borders opening. I guess these are very specifically for New Zealand because New Zealand, of course, I understand that the borders are closed completely. In terms of Canada, as long as you have a valid visa, which is whatever category you've applied for, right? Be it student, work. If you have a confirmation of permanent residence, you're not allowed immediate entry. But otherwise, if you have a study permit, your course is starting soon, your college has a COVID readiness plan that's been approved by the province, and you download the app that's required, you can pretty much come in. So there's no borders completely closed situation, which is the case in New Zealand. I understand a lot of you guys are, I guess, putting forth questions for New Zealand. I completely understand the angst. Because borders are closed and it is not likely to open anytime soon. There is no definitive update around when, but of course, unfortunately, New Zealand, it is not likely to open anytime soon. Yes, Tessie, your question is on New Zealand as well. As we said already, I will have another colleague of mine, a licensed New Zealand professional, do a New Zealand specific session. But yes, we are all cognizant of the fact that the borders are closed and it's not likely to open anytime soon. Abhi, hi, welcome to the live session. Your question on when is the next intake for PhD in Canada? There are three very popular intakes in Canada. The most popular intake in Canada is, of course, the fall intake, which course is starting in September. If you don't get the fall intake, they will defer you to the next intake, which is the winter intake. Starts in Jan or Feb of every year. And then there is a very sometimes very, very sporadic summer intake, which starts in May or June. And not all institutes have the summer intake. There are only very, very few institutes that have the summer intake. All right, so that starts in May or June. And not all institutes, universities have it. So you may or may not get the summer intake. But the most popular intake in Canada is, of course, the fall intake, which courses starting in September. So if you're doing a PhD program, most likely they'd want you to join in September. So check with the institute of your choice if the September intake is possible. And if you want to apply for the September intake, please make sure, if you want to start in September rather, make sure your visa proceedings and everything starts well in advance. And I would recommend anybody wanting to start a particular intake to come and to put in their study, the visa application at least 3 months in advance, because it does take that much, even though India is a part of the student direct stream list of countries and processing happens in 20 calendar days. But I would recommend putting in the visa application well in advance. Yeah, Mohit, again, a PTE score, it will not be accepted. Universities in Canada do not accept PTE, so you will have to get back to us with an academic IELTS. And also, depending on where you want to study, as I said already, there might be a GRE, GMAT requirement. Okay, going back to courses, guys, I already said STEM courses are very popular. And we also, the next broad specialization that I would want to discuss is, of course, engineering. Engineering has always been popular historically. It continues to be popular. Engineering is a very popular subject field in India as well. And we have a lot of people progressing into courses, higher level courses in the same specialization in Canada as well. If we talk about top engineering programs in Canada for international students, there are a lot of bachelor as well as master's degree courses. And the popular ones are, there's a Bachelor of Applied Science in Civil Engineering. That will be University of Waterloo. There is a Bachelor's in Computer Engineering, McGill University. McGill University, the one in Quebec, the one in Montreal in Quebec, is very popular for a lot of the degrees in science. So for anyone who is a hopeful or any aspiring student wanting to come and pursue science or engineering in Canada, you might want to have a look at McGill University. There's, of course, University of Toronto, which is very popular for the mechanical engineering courses. And then there is University of BC, British Columbia, which is also the fourth highest ranked university in Canada. And there are lots of bachelor's as well as master's in engineering courses. And this particular university, University of British Columbia, is also rather popular for mechanical engineering. Computer engineering, very, very popular subject in the University of Alberta. So if you are interested in computer engineering in particular, it might be worthwhile to check University of Alberta. There are lots of um, requirements for this particular course. So a lot of these universities, including University of Alberta, will require some sort of a competitive exam scorecard. So check which one. And for your English language acquaintance, you will need to provide academic IELTS. A lot of times, guys, the institute will give you a waiver for IELTS, but that is depending on which institute you've gone to in India, what your scores are, etc. So while it might not be an absolute, mandatory requirement, um, you might be able to get a waiver if you have great academic scores in India or the home country where you pursued your course, and also if during the course of their interview with you, if there is one, if they're satisfied that you have a great level of conversational fluency in English, then oftentimes they might actually give you a waiver as far as academic IELTS is concerned. The lesser known or the not so popular field, but one that is gaining traction these days, is agricultural science and forestry. This is a very, very popular subject in Canada. With Indian students, of course, it's not very popular, or there hasn't been as much awareness. But within the domestic student population itself, this is a very, very popular specialization: agricultural science and forestry. Okay, so some of the top agricultural science and forestry programs in India, from the perspective of international students, there are various universities offering various courses at the bachelor's level as well as the master's level. So, for example, the University of Alberta has a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture. There is a very, very unique and a very popular master's program here in Canada. It's called Master of International Forestry, and it's with the University of British Columbia, BC. Of course, as you know, Canada has a very, very large, I guess in terms of just surface area and just how much land there is, that's very vast in Canada. It includes a lot of forest land, and so a lot of people specializing in international forestry. And the university that is the most popular for it is University of British Columbia, offering also another subject, these days that has gained popularity and traction, of course, is sustainable forest management. These are all topical courses. These are courses that address issues of today in the environment and sort of the forest department, if you will. And one such course is the Master of Sustainable Forest Management course. And that, again, is with the University of British Columbia. So BC, in general, has a lot of these agricultural forestry related courses, and if you're interested in one of these, then University of British Columbia, I would definitely check. Of course, there's also a Bachelor of Science in Agribusiness. Very, very interesting subject matter, very, very interesting topic, very high uptake as far as jobs is concerned. Agribusiness. So there is a Bachelor of Sciences in Agribusiness with University of Saskatchewan. And there is also a Bachelor of Forest Management and Environment with Laval University. Laval University, of course, is in Quebec, in Canada, very close to Montreal. A lot of the bachelor's degrees, guys, as I mentioned already, they are 4-year courses, all right? The duration, like how a bachelor's degree in India it spans, over 3 years. The duration of bachelor's degree courses in Canada is typically 4 years. And for a lot of master's degree courses, it really, really depends. The majority of them span over 12 months, which is 1 year. But there are lots of master's degree courses that are even shorter in duration. So 8 months, 9 months, etc. But typically these would extend up to a year if you are doing a master's degree. Of course, there are ones that go on for longer, but typically it would be 12 months. Okay, if you have questions, guys. Yes, sure. Okay, Jakpal says, I have an AIP for New Zealand. Can I try for Canada while not disturbing my New Zealand AIP? AIP, guys, is approval in principle when you have applied for a study permit. If when you've applied for studying in New Zealand, and then they give you an approval in principle, subject to you paying your fee, etc. That's AIP. Jagpal, I guess you could apply to Canada without it, necessarily hampering your New Zealand AIP. If you do get an offer from a Canadian university, you can actually do a comparative study / analysis and see which one you'd want to pursue. But and then if you want to go ahead with Canada, you can apply for your visa, etc. But just an AIP is not going to, I guess, question your intent to come to Canada as well. So, these are mutually exclusive processes. You've applied for New Zealand, the borders are closed, you want to, get to becoming an international student at the earliest you can. It's understandable that you are looking for other avenues. Yogesh, hi. Best colleges. Vijay, hi. Welcome to the live session. Thank you for joining. Best colleges for supply chain and logistics. Um, there are a lot of courses for supply chain and logistics. The better ones, which are the same ones that I discussed: University of Toronto, McGill University, Ivy Business School, McMaster University, Simon Fraser. These are largely in the areas of business, supply chain, sales, marketing. These are the colleges to look out for. There are, of course, also a number of tier two institutes, universities that AJB itself has a tie-up with. So we could help you, do a little bit of institute or course mapping as well. So guys, this is just an update on AJB. We've secured associations. We're securing associations with more and more institutes / universities / DLIs, designated learning institutes in Canada. And we are helping prospective students with doing institute mapping, which means according to what you've studied, according to your work, which institute in Canada is the best fit for you, and when should you apply. And then, of course, I'm here in Canada, so I also take complete charge of somebody's student visa application. So documentation, writing SOPs, etc. So we are offering complete help in that department as well. So if you guys are wondering about studying in Canada, please solicit our help, and we will start right from the very beginning, which is looking at your profile, helping you with matching you with the best institutes in Canada. The SOP is, of course, a very, very big deal. So your case needs to be presented in a way that is compelling, in a way that necessitates the offer, right? You want the admissions team to look at your story and be like, all right, this sounds like a wonderful student, sounds like, they know how to present their case, has done all the right things, and gives you an offer. Getting an offer itself is a very, very competitive process here, because Canada is such a popular study destination. So you will need professional help in terms of I guess presenting your story, writing the SOP, formatting it, etc. So we do all of that, and if that's what you need, if that's what you're looking to do, then please get in touch with us. Put your email ID, contact details below, and I can have someone from the admissions team contact you. I'm also working with clients themselves, so at some point I will be having a word with the clients to see how the SOP can be written down. Of course, for a lot of mature returning students, which means if you've had a considerable work stint and you're now getting back to studying, you will need significant interview preparation as well. So we will help you with that process, because the visa officer is going to want to know why you are returning to academics after a long work stint. So that becomes a very, very important and a very strategic question to answer very well, because they want to know your intent. They want to know, are you going to be a real student who will invest that time and energy in studying before you move on to other pathways? There's no problem in letting visa officers know that your eventual aim or your eventual ambition is to settle in Canada and to get to a pathway to PR. But there's no need to camouflage that and say, oh no, I'm going to come back to India and do the following. Sometimes it sounds very, very implausible when students say that, but we will tell you how exactly to answer some interview questions, etc. So there's help available. If you want to apply, please get in touch with one of our please get in touch with us, and then we'll have your case assigned very, very specifically to an admissions officer, and then consecutively to someone who'll take care of your SOP, and then we'll get to the application, visa application, etc. So it's a step-by-step incremental process, all right? And we offer help at every stage. Gauri, your question is on July intake in New Zealand. It doesn't look like it's going to happen because there hasn't been any definitive update as far as the New Zealand border situation is concerned. Processing, of course, is if you don't have your visa yet, your approval or your decision, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, your decision is not likely to come anytime soon because, like you might have seen in the comment section, New Zealand visa processing offices have closed in India. They are moving all of that work onshore, which means now they have to hire hundreds of visa officers in New Zealand before they are trained, before they understand the nuances of the Indian market, and before they start making decisions. So this is a really long drawn process. And anybody who is waiting to start their course in New Zealand, guys, unfortunately, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it looks like this is going to take a while. And that explains why a lot of people are moving on to other destinations, other countries, Canada being one of them. It's right up there in terms of alternative study destinations for people who've looked at New Zealand already. So that's why, it may not be the right, sort of absolutely right reason to jump the Canada student bandwagon, but if you think Canada is a compelling enough destination, we can definitely help you in that regard. What about student visa? Katie, Boss Gaming. Okay. What about student visa? Katie, I don't understand what your question is. If you are asking about the student visa process in Canada, of course, you can apply once you have an offer letter from a DLI, a designated learning institute. Once an institute gives you an offer letter, once your funds are ready, once your documentation is ready, guys, please note, you will need to, if you are working, you will need to employ references. If you are applying for largely master's degree courses, you will also need two academic references. Please keep all of these details ready. Once all of your documentation is complete and on point, and once you are ready to apply for a study visa or a study permit, you can make that application, and then decisions are still coming through with Canada. So once you have an approved study permit, you can enter Canada and start pursuing your course. A lot of institutes are also allowing for, and this was earlier when the COVID situation was pretty bad, a lot of institutes were also allowing students to start their courses online and then continue on in Canada. So that's happening as well. So in Canada, there is no, it's happening, it's business as usual. So if that's your question, Katie, I hope I've answered it. Kapil, Meena, that's an interesting question. I am 40. Is it possible for me to go to Canada for study? Kapil, there are two hurdles here, that come with age. One is securing the offer letter. So for anybody who is pursuing, education or, wanting to study after a while, we always recommend mature returning students to give us a really good academic IELTS score. That's one way of differentiating your profile and adding, that much more worth and credibility to it. So one thing we will need is a really good academic IELTS score. When I say really good, anything upwards of 7.5. And the second thing is, of course, the visa process. Even once you get the offer letter, when you apply for the visa, largely, people who've had a professional stint, they are all put in the interview bucket by the visa office. So that means a visa officer is going to call you and interview you in much detail about your return to academics. So the onus is on the applicant to justify why the return to academics is I guess why it is a credible pathway that you have chosen. So the interview has to be done with care. You have to do a lot of research on the course, on where you're going, the province, the job opportunities. Just know the course thoroughly, which means the modules, what you're going to study in year 1 or 2, etc. So it is definitely a lot harder if you are 40 and above to get a visa and to even get an offer of place. But of course, like all things, it's not impossible. And there are lots of students who've come here at a later stage, especially if it's to pursue a master's course, because there are a lot of mature returning students in the postgraduate diploma and the master's space here. So, I wouldn't be entirely discouraged and say, it's not possible at all. But if you can get a really good academic IELTS score, and if you are fairly confident that you will be able to make a grand case for yourself when the visa officer calls for an interview, then I would encourage it. But as a general rule of thumb, of course, it's tougher for anybody who is 35 and above to secure an offer of place, and B, a study visa. Okay, I hope that answers your question. There is no, there are no answering the binary and yeses and nos, because every case is so unique. A lot of people get visas, a lot of people don't. So it's largely on the applicant and the candidate how they justify their case. Okay. All right, Mohammed, the live session for New Zealand is, it happens every week as well. I have some of my New Zealand colleagues do live sessions all the time. So they will be addressing your questions on New Zealand admissions, study visas, etc. There'll be a similar, like the one I'm doing for Canada, there'll definitely be a similar one for New Zealand as well. All right, guys, we were discussing specializations before I took some questions. We discussed agricultural sciences. Healthcare, of course, is another very popular field in Canada. If you guys are interested in healthcare as a specialization, you can look at some of the various, these are more in the field of pharmacy, nursing, and the most popular ones are the bachelor degree courses. So University of Alberta has the Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy. It's very popular amongst Indian students as well, this particular one. Then, of course, there's the Bachelor of Nursing. McGill University is very popular for their nursing programs. McGill University is in Montreal, in Quebec. Quebec, you might have heard, is a French-speaking province of Canada. Okay, then there's also MD courses, McMaster University, very popular. McMaster is another university in Hamilton in Ontario. There's a Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Sciences, again, University of British Columbia. And for nursing, I know of a lot of Indian students who go to Ottawa as well. University of Ottawa is a fairly big facility, institution, and healthcare courses are very popular in Ottawa. So University of Ottawa, as we said, all bachelor degree courses will span over 4 years typically, except for a very few ones that are 3 years in duration. Okay, so 4 years or 3 years. In terms of tuition, guys, for a lot of the bachelor's degree courses, yeah, there's someone here who's asking about cost. Largely, I would peg this, for international students, it will largely be about 25 to 30,000 Canadian dollars for the course. And then, of course, you have a tuition fee of $10,000 for the primary applicant. If you have dependents, it's calculated at $4,000 for the first dependent and $3,000 for successor one. So if you're a couple coming with a kid, then it'll be $10,000 living expenses for the primary applicant who's a student. It'll be $4,000 for the dependent spouse and $3,000 for the child. So that's how it's calculated in terms of living expenses. Courses can roughly, it really depends on which course in terms of cost. The business, the MBA programs, etc., of course, they cost higher. Bachelor's programs also cost a lot because, of course, the duration is 3 years. But it would be fair if I was to give you a ballpark, courses would span, it would be such a wide range. It depends on what you want to study, but about $25,000 to 40 and even $50,000 for some of the business courses would be the cost. Mukesh, your question is very, very specific. I will need my admissions team to have a look at it. If you've done hospital administration, there are quite, if you are interested in paramedical and nursing courses, I already mentioned a whole host of universities that offer bachelors in nursing. But if that's too long a time, if you are looking at other shorter term courses, my admissions team will get in touch with you, and we can give you shorter term courses as well. Please realize that even if you have done related courses in your home country, a lot of these professions are all they are regulated / licensed professions. So a lot of times it makes sense, if you want to pursue a career in that field, to do a small course in Canada to basically tie it up with what you've already studied in your home country. So it's best to do a short duration program here before get your licenses, etc., before you are ready for a job in that particular field in Canada. So if you've already studied hospital administration, and if you're interested in areas like paramedical and nursing, there are shorter term courses for people who are already from that particular background, and my admissions team can do a quick mapping of which institute will suit you best, depending also on what your affordability threshold is in terms of courses. So get in touch with us, leave your email ID below, and I will have my admissions team contact you. Poonam, again, your question is on New Zealand, that you have received a conditional offer for July. As I said already, it doesn't look, and I want to be optimistic and pragmatic as possible, and who knows, there might be a miraculous turnaround. But if you have an offer from an institute in New Zealand and they want you to start in July, it looks like July is a little bit too early for things to go back to normal in New Zealand. If you do not have, Poonam, can you let me know if you have the visa already? Have you applied for the visa? Have you received your approval, or where are you with the visa application? Because that is going to take a really, really long time with New Zealand, because all of the processing has moved onshore, and they are only just hiring visa officers now in New Zealand. So for them to actually get their caseload, look at applications, start giving approvals, it's going to take a long, long while. Okay, so if you have an intake for July, if you have the visa already, if you've applied, and if you got the visa a while back, it might be possible. But if that hasn't happened at all, then you may not be able to even get the visa in time to start your course. Okay, Dhruv Patel, interesting question. Postgraduate diploma in analytical chemistry is good for PR. Now, when you ask me about which course is good for PR, guys, I would want to take a step back and chart the entire pathway for anybody who's interested. Okay, so when you come and study in Canada, you come on a study permit, right? So you come with a study permit, you complete your course in Canada. If it's for 1 year, you're done in a year, depending on what the length of your course is. You come here and you successfully pursue your course in Canada. Once you complete your course, you have to apply for what is known as a postgraduate work permit. So within 6 months of receiving confirmation from your institute that you have completed your course successfully, in Canada, you can apply for a postgraduate work permit. Earlier, you could only apply for a postgraduate work permit from within Canada. Okay, now that situation has changed. You can apply for a postgraduate work permit from anywhere in the world. So once you apply for the postgraduate work permit and get it, you will be able to, you get a work permit, which mirrors the duration of your study permit. So if you studied here for a year, you'll get a postgraduate work permit for a year. If you studied for 2 years, you get a postgraduate work permit for 2 years. The maximum duration of the postgraduate work permit is 3 years. Okay, so this postgraduate work permit allows you to gather work experience in Canada. And hopefully, by the end of year one, which means once you gather 1 year of work experience in Canada, you will be able to apply for residence in Canada. So you will be eligible for what is known as residence under the Canadian Experience Class, CEC. And the CEC residence express entry stream is for anybody who has 12 months of work experience in Canada. So hopefully, once you've acquired that, you will be very, very easily eligible for residence in Canada. People ask, can I do any kind of job to qualify for residence? Pretty much all kinds of jobs will qualify you as long as they are in NOC 0 A and B, which is largely majority of the professional jobs here. So you should be good to go as long as you have 1 year. It's also important to mention that with a lot of Indian couples coming in particular, when the student comes in, the partner slash spouse slash husband will qualify for an open work permit, which means the spouse can work anywhere in Canada. An open work permit is, it's neither employer bound nor is it province bound, which means the spouse can work anywhere in Canada. And once the spouse has acquired 1 year of work experience, the spouse could actually be the primary express entry applicant as well. That has been done for a lot of couples who come to Canada. Okay, so that's the other sort of professional insight into this. Poonam, thank you for your response. You haven't applied for the visa yet, so well, it's going to take a while in New Zealand then. Yeah, I guess then 2022 is when it's going to be possible. So if you haven't applied for the visa, even optimistically and pragmatically speaking, I would say that it's more likely to happen, your course start is more likely to happen in 2022. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm just being realistic. Feb semester for New Zealand. If you are talking about Feb of 2022, Pranav Subramaniam, if you're talking about Feb of 2022, well, it might happen. They are looking to hire, make all of the pending decisions in 2021. So you might get entry and you might be able to start your course in 2022. But I don't know. I mean, nothing is etched in stone. It's hard for me to predict. You might have to just, wait and watch that space closely. 2022 looks a little bit plausible in terms of course start timelines. 2021 is pretty much going to be a write-off, guys. All right, guys, let's keep questions specific to Canada, please. There are lots of very nuanced New Zealand questions that I don't want to take because I'm not the expert and I don't want to give wrong information. But let's keep questions specific to Canada. I know a lot of students who were looking at New Zealand, and given how things have come to a complete standstill, a lot of people have looked at Canada, and it shouldn't jeopardize your New Zealand application process because, well, you are an international student wanting to start at the earliest you can, so you're looking for avenues that are more accessible and are welcoming students. So, of course, you can apply to Canada. Okay. Okay, Raj, good question with the DLI stuff. So are immigration restrictions still on, even with DLI universities? The answer to that is a no. If you have an approved study permit, as I said already, if you have an approved study permit, and if your university has an approved COVID readiness plan, and most universities do. If you want to see a list of which colleges, institutes have an approved COVID readiness plan, you can go to the Government of Canada website. You are allowed entry to Canada and you're allowed to start your course. Okay? A 1-year master's program does not guarantee, Raj, it does not guarantee a 3 years postgraduate work permit. In the majority of cases, 1 year a master's program will only give you a 1 year postgraduate work permit. Sometimes when the master's program is 2 years, you get a 3 years work permit. But for 1 year, get 3 years is, I mean, you're hoping for a miracle. But it's only when sometimes the master's program is 2 years, you get a 3 years postgraduate work permit, which again is a discretionary visa officer decision. Largely, the postgraduate work permit will always mirror the duration of your study permit, as we discussed already. Okay. Gauri, again, your question, July intake for New Zealand study visa looks a little bit difficult, honestly, because they are now moving, because they've closed all of the processing offices in India for New Zealand. All of that workforce will now have to be moved onshore, and they don't have enough officers. They haven't been trained in the whole art of decision making with regard to South Asian countries. So it's going to really take a while. And if you are planning a July intake for the July intake, seems a bit tough. I wouldn't want to be overtly pessimistic, but I would be more inclined to think about 2022 as far as pursuing courses in New Zealand is concerned. Okay. All right, guys, in terms of, some of the quick, important sort of study related information as far as Canada is concerned, the first step would be to do research on which institute you are coming to, so to do the right kind of institute mapping. As I mentioned at the very start, a lot of institutes have the requirement for GRE GMAT. Majority of the institutes in Canada, even the good ones, do not, which a lot of students like. They only submit their academic IELTS, and they don't necessarily have to give the GRE, GMAT, all of these very competitive, rigorous exams, which does incentivize a lot of applications to Canada. Once you're done with the institute mapping, the next stage is all of your documentation. So arranging for funds, right? For living expenses, most students go for GIC, which is the Guaranteed Investment Certificate. It's like opening a savings account in one of the Canadian banks. There are a lot of participating Indian banks as well that have their Canadian branches here. For example, ICICI Bank has a lot of Canadian branches, so you can open a GIC with ICICI. SBI, guys, also has a Canadian branch, subsidiary, whatever it is. So there is SBI Canada as well that does GICs for students. So GIC is where I think New Zealand has a similar FTS scheme as well, where all of the living expenses money is locked in, and it's drip fed to you. So in Canada, how GIC works is that all of the living expenses money, $10,200, is locked in with a Canadian bank. And then once the student lands in Canada, the student is given the first $2,000, and then the remaining is given in equal installments over the course of 12 months. That's how GIC works. So there are all big Canadian banks participate with creating GICs. And like I said, also Indian banks like ICICI Canada, SBI Canada, etc. Okay, so funds will have to be, you have to keep it ready. If you have multiple sponsors, then we need letters from sponsors, we need the financial, we need the guarantors form, etc. If you have worked, we need all of your work experience documents, we need professional references, we need academic references as well. Once all of these things are ready, you are pretty much ready to apply for a study permit. And then for a lot of the mature returning students, there is an interview process, which a lot of people may find a little bit intimidating. So you might want to prepare well in advance. But as I said, India is a part of the student direct stream program, and decisions are likely to come within 20 calendar days. And then once you have your approval and your institute's COVID readiness plan printed out, you are pretty much ready to travel to Canada. So that's the process and the pathway for coming to Canada. The advantage of working with a professional in this area is that we will guide you step by step, right? With institute mapping, with preparing for SOPs, with applying for the visa, and of course, you want to do it with full transparency and declaration that you do have a licensed professional representing you. So the application will definitely have the form, the user representative form, which will have all of my details, etc. So it'll be a fully professional, transparent process. And then once that's done, we will help you with a step-by-step guide to handling interviews as well. So it's a sort of a full-on comprehensive, I guess, a package that we have for anyone wanting to come to Canada. So like I said, unlike New Zealand, the difference here is that you can travel, you can start your courses, all spouses, as long as the primary student is a full-time student at a DLI, the spouse qualifies for the open work permit. Okay, so the spouse can come in, work anywhere for as long as the student is studying. The spouse, of course, will have the visa duration mirroring the primary applicant's study visa. Question on dependents, yes. Dependent children can come in, and then you can have it linked to your, I guess, study permit, and they can come and study and get, their free education in Canada up to 12th standard if they're going to public schools, and that's what happens in most cases. So that, of course, is another, I guess, incentivizing factor as far as coming to Canada is concerned. Yes, spouses can either apply together at the very start, dependents. A lot of times the primary student first comes to Canada and then puts in a spousal open work permit application here because they don't want, a lot of people think if I apply together, there's going to be a rejection or it's going to delay my study permit application. There might be truth in that. So a lot of people don't want to take that chance at all. And they come here and apply for the spousal permit, which is, of course, another way of doing it. And onshore in Canada, processing timeframes, vary between a month or two. So it won't take too long for the spouse to join you, even if you apply for his or her open work permit from Canada. Okay, a lot of people do that. Cedric McCowan, yes, if your question is around visit or work for Canada, sorry, your question is very vague, but you can definitely apply for a visitor visa. They are still accepting processing applications. Work visas in Canada, very, very, very tough. All work visas have to have a positive labor market assessment, which is very hard to get when a lot of people here are also struggling with finding jobs. So work visa at the moment seems a little bit tough, a little bit preposterous. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting in India and hoping I'll get a work visa. It's tough because it has to be LMI approved, which is a very, very hard thing for employers to prove. Guys, not taking a lot of work visa questions on New Zealand. I will pass these on to my colleague. Akansha, your question on part-time job with study. When you have your study permit, you can only work for 20 hours a week. In campus or off, so that's the work that you can manage. You're not allowed to work beyond the 20 hours. If you are a co-op student, co-ops are where the work experience is inbuilt in the study curriculum. You can work for 50% of your course duration, but that is course approved, where your course requires you to work. That's a co-op program. But otherwise, you can work 20 hours a week. Employer-assisted work visa, you can, but of course, the employer will have to go through all of the necessary hurdles, paperwork, etc. So, if the employer does want to go through the LMI process, and if your skills are that niche and unique that you really, justify the work permit, you could work with an employer, but it's really tough to get a work visa sitting in any other country. Okay, so guys, that brings me to the end of my live session for today. Oh my God, the hour just flew by, and It was really a pleasure interacting with all of you guys and taking some of your questions. I know, it's an unfortunate sort of situation in New Zealand, and a lot of questions were on New Zealand, guys. But I'm the Canada expert, and I don't necessarily want to take in, very detailed New Zealand questions because primarily I don't want to give you guys the wrong information. But I hope I was able to provide a few insights into courses in Canada, universities, where to study, as I said already. AJB also has a tie-up with a whole host of really good institutions, so we can help you with offers, and I can help you with the visa process. So I will continue to do my live sessions every Thursday. Next Thursday, I'll possibly look at sponsorships, etc., which of course is a very popular topic in India. So I will join you guys once again next week. Thank you for taking the time out to be with me this evening, this morning, wherever in the world you're from. And I look forward to connecting with you again. Thank you very, very much for your time, and have a wonderful rest of the day. And please, if you have questions, if you want AJB to get in touch with you, if you want me to connect with you, I would request you to leave your phone number and also leave your email ID behind. All right, guys, thank you very, very much for your time, and have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.